Is the 2017 Hyundai Tucson with a 2-liter gasoline engine. The car needs to drive onto the hillock with the front right wheel at a certain trajectory, as the right side of the hill is steeper and the left side has a simpler line with minimal resistance. The unloaded wheels are slipping helplessly, while the loaded ones stand motionless. There is not even a hint of the traction control system working. But as the car slid to the left, it managed to drive further. Take a note on the slippage intensity and later compare it with the other participants. The final part of the first obstacle, the uphill drive with diagonal opposed wheels. The front right and rear left wheels do not have sufficient grip, and the traction control system is helpless in this situation. Increasing the revs gave more torque, and it was enough for the loaded wheels to start pushing the car forward. I can assume that the Kia Sportage will show exactly the same result. You're going to see it next. The 2018 Kia Sportage is technically the same as the previous participant. It has the exact same 2-liter gasoline engine under the hood, the exact same gearbox, and all-wheel drive. Well, at least the tires are different. First attempt, the trajectory is the same as that of the Tucson, and what do we see? Helpless wheel spin without any chance of driving forward. Second attempt, the Kia drives further to the left, and now it has a little more momentum. The car manages to jump onto the hillock, and after a short slip, it continues driving. The situation is similar to the Hyundai Tucson free slipping of the least loaded wheels. Kia Sportage and Hyundai Tucson have identical all-wheel drive system settings. The car continues to drive only after a significant increase of the engine's RPMs, when there is enough torque to turn the loaded wheels. And now, we're going to watch how the all-wheel drive systems of other cars will work in similar conditions. The next participant is the 2017 Mazda CX-5 with a 2-liter petrol engine and studded tires. CX-5 drives along the standard trajectory. Studded tires have no advantage. The car slips with the least loaded wheels in the same way as Hyundai and Kia did. Mazda rolls back and tries again, but this time it drives along the simpler trajectory. Have a look at the front right wheel. It slips and makes the car slide a little to the left. Kia and Hyundai did not do so. That's a definite plus for Mazda. Do you remember how Kia and Hyundai slipped here? Mazda behaves similarly. The CX-5 keeps copying the behavior of Kia and Hyundai on the third part of the obstacle. Free slippage of the least loaded wheels and driving forward only after a significant increase of RPMs. The next participant is the 2013 Mitsubishi Outlander with a 2.4-liter gasoline engine and CVT. Mitsubishi drives along the initial trajectory. Look at the front right wheel. After a slight slip, the traction control has done its job. The front right wheel began spinning. The car drifted to the left and continued driving. Here, you can see that with increased revs, the electronics work more efficiently and the car continues to push forward. The increase of engine's RPMs is proportional to the distance covered by the car at this obstacle. There is no helpless slippage as there was in the case with Kia and Hyundai. Nissan Rogue with a 2.5-liter gasoline engine and CVT. Nissan drives along the standard line. The unloaded wheels keep slipping, but check how the front right wheel is twitching. Rogue did not slide to the left as Mazda and Mitsubishi did. The car was able to drive the obstacle while maintaining the initial trajectory. I won't comment on this part. You can see everything by yourself. It's much more interesting what's about to happen next. confident driving forward as the engine's RPMs increase. Even stopping with the hanging rear left wheel did not affect Rogue's behavior. Now, the 2019 Subaru Forester with a 2.5-liter gasoline engine, CVT, and first-generation X-Mode system. Standard trajectory, and let's see how Forester handles this obstacle. All wheels are actively slipping except for the rear left one. Now, it's loaded more than others, and unlike other wheels, it has no ice under it. The car does not slide off its trajectory, and it doesn't need high engine revs for the all-wheel drive system to fully engage. Forester simply lacks the tire grip to overcome the obstacle. And now, the driver has activated the X mode, and Forester overcomes this obstacle without drifting to the left. Great job! Here, you can clearly see and even hear how the slipping wheel slows down. The car doesn't need high engine revs to smoothly push forward. The final part of the obstacle, slight tire slip and full stop with the rear left wheel hanging. Then, confident driving forward provided that the tires have sufficient grip. The next participant is the 2014 Toyota RAV4 with a 2.5-liter gasoline engine, automatic transmission, and studded tires. The trajectory is the same as the previous participants. Does that remind you of anything? That's right, Kia and Hyundai. Useless tire slip of the most unloaded wheels. And this is what happens when the traction control system is turned off. Now the car is driving along the simplest trajectory with traction control in standard mode. But even here, we see tires slipping immensely.
Two hours later.
The traction control holds down the engine power and doesn't let the revs go up. The driver presses the gas pedal to the floor, the wheels barely spin, and nothing happens. The car rolls back. Finally, RAV4 passed this part of the obstacle using the momentum. A slipping of the diagonally located and least loaded wheels is quite an expected result, wherein the electronic assistance systems do not allow the engine to increase RPMs and the car stands still. Only by rolling back and gaining acceleration, RAV4 was able to overcome this obstacle. The car drives up a step with the front wheel, followed by active slipping of the unloaded wheels. The loaded wheels of the Hyundai did not slip and make a rotation corresponding to the distance covered. The car stops with the rear left wheel raised, some wheel spin, and the car continues driving. Now, the front left wheel and the rear right wheel have a tight press against the ground. The unloaded wheels are actively slipping again until the traction control system can provide enough torque to the loaded wheels. If you look closely, you can see the typical rocking of the car. It is the electronics that slow down the slipping wheels, and the Santa Fe very easily drove out of the last obstacle. At the exit, the car almost stops on a slope. Some minor slipping of the unloaded wheels, and the Hyundai drives on. I specifically drew attention to this because there will be something interesting ahead. The next participant is the 2014 Chevrolet Captiva with a 3-liter gasoline engine. The Captiva is driving per the same line as the Santa Fe. The front right wheel presses against the climb, and then the unloaded wheels slip under the clatter of the braking system, which tries to create more resistance on the slipping wheels so that the loaded wheels get more torque. Now the driver decided to limit the automatic transmission at the first gear. But the result is still the same. Even having shifted to the left toward a simpler line, the Captiva cannot conquer this obstacle. Therefore, the driver turned off the electronic stability program. That's what you would expect. If previously the electronics at least somehow tried to help overcome this obstacle, then with the ESP off, the car simply slips. The driver has now reactivated the ESP and turned on the hill descent control. The driver keeps the RPMs around 2,500, and you can see how the car jerks because of the traction control system. But the result is still the same, even in spite of the simpler line. Having tried all possible options, the very last thing remains: to get a little more acceleration. The Captiva, without stopping, continues to drive to the second part of the obstacle. Unlike the previous obstacle, two diagonally located wheels are now loaded: the front left wheel and the rear right one. The Chevrolet is actively slipping, and the traction control system is not effective enough in this situation. And if the Santa Fe was able to drive out of this position, then for Captiva, this is an impossible task. So the Chevy rolls back to gain acceleration with a 3.5-liter gasoline V6. The car stops at the starting position with the front wheel pressing against the climb. The unloaded wheels rotate several times at a low speed. The engine RPMs rise, which means that the wheels must receive more torque. The loaded front wheel spins, and with a slight drift to the left, the car drives forward. The next test is a stop with the rear left wheel hanging. The driver keeps the steady throttle at low revs. The traction control system is effective even without high revs, so the Kia drives on with confidence. The car occupies the same position as the two previous participants. Smooth throttle at low revs and with minimal wheel slip, the Sorento drives up to the final test. Except for a slight wheel spin, we can say that the Kia also overcame this test without any difficulties, because Sorento practically stopped before conquering it. The fourth participant is the 2008 Honda Pilot with a 3.5-liter gasoline engine. The Honda gets to the starting position, and we see the slipping of the unloaded wheels. The car drifts slightly to the left. The load on the front right wheel has become lower, which means less torque is needed to turn the wheel. And then, an unexpected surprise. The Pilot is stuck between the first and the second obstacle. The Honda's both front wheels are actively spinning, but the rear right wheel remains still. And here, the matter is in the grip of the tire, and now it is clearly not enough. The driver locks the central clutch and deactivates the traction control. But the result is still the same: activating traction control back. Having tried all the options, the Pilot backs up to take a little acceleration. The car practically jumps over the second obstacle, stopping at the very end of it. Therefore, let's drive further. The Honda stops at the starting position like the previous participants. Actively slipping with unloaded wheels, the Pilot drives forward and stops in with the front right wheel high in the air. A little slipping, and the car started conquering the snowy hill. It would seem like the pilot has already climbed the hill, but do you remember the lack of tire grip on this Honda? This is a great demonstration of how tires can influence the behavior of a car in the snow. But Honda's traction control system has shown good performance, keeping in mind the year of the car's production. But it doesn't make sense if the tires have no grip. Next participant. Contestant number 5, the 2008 Subaru Tribeca with a 3.6-liter gasoline engine. The car drives to the starting spot and presses against the step with the front right wheel. Active slipping of the unloaded wheels, and the Subaru drifts to the left on a flatter part of the slope. The Tribeca spins its wheels again, but the loaded wheels are no longer showing any signs of activity. A very strange behavior. The driver has now deactivated the electronic stability and the vehicle dynamics control systems. The slipping wheels are more actively clamped by the brakes, while the front left wheel rotates more than during the previous attempt. The topic of rubber comes to the fore again. The Subaru has 3 wheels slipping, and the car is driving forward very slowly. The test with hanging of the rear left wheel. The front right wheel barely touches the ground. The traction control system grips the slipping wheels, causing the car to even shake and spin the loaded wheels. But because of the rubber, the Tribeca crawls forward quite lazily. The final test. The engine drives first. The driver has activated the low range and locked the central differential. The car slips aside because of the ice under the snow and can't climb up. The second attempt. Now the Prado gains a little momentum. The Toyota slips all its wheels, and with the engine revving at the limiter, the car conquers the climb. The 2014 Land Rover Discovery 4 will make the first attempt in the automatic mode of the 4-wheel drive system, and the result is quite expectable. During the second try, the driver gains a little momentum, and this leads to a spectacular U-turn. And this is the attempt to drive per less flatter line. But the outcome is still the same. Now, a little more momentum, and the result is predictable at that speed. The next participant, the 2005 Lexus LX 470. The first attempt, and the driver is trying to climb smoothly. Well, that was too optimistic. Let's try again. Now the low range is activated and the center differential is locked. But the treacherous icy climb is not ready to surrender. Another attempt. Now a little more acceleration and a bit early throttling. Finally, the car conquers the climb. Now it's the turn of the 2014 Mercedes-AMG G63. By the way, click the link in description of the video against the Range Rover, Lexus LX 570, Mercedes GLS, BMW X7, and other full-size SUVs. Let's get back to our snowy hills. During the first attempt, the driver tries to drive smoothly in the standard mode. The car drives into a diagonal suspension, and with active wheel spin, the car slips aside similar to the other participants. Another attempt to drive smoothly, but per flatter line. The third attempt, but with all lockers activated. The speed and the line are the same as during the first attempt. The G-Wagon climbs up the hill spectacularly, slipping with all four wheels. Now, it's the turn of the Toyota Tundra with a supercharged 5.7-liter V8. The first attempt is in standard mode of the four-wheel drive system. Let's activate the front and rear lockers additionally installed in this car. But due to the heavy weight, the Tundra laterally slips on the climb. The car rolls back and tries to climb again from this position. Now the driver attempts to drive per standard line with stepping on the gas pedal in the middle of the climb. Because of the suspension travel, it may seem that the Tundra can easily climb the hill. I am already lost. What an attempt is this? That's why we add more momentum, and the Tundra plays the previous obstacle, but the climb itself is longer. The second attempt of the Discovery. Let's add a little more momentum. Activate the low range and switch the terrain response system into snow mode. Dramatically sliding aside, the car makes U-turn on the slope. It looked more impressive live. Another attempt, now in sand mode. The electronics allows more wheel spin in this mode. The Land Rover almost makes it to the top, but not high enough to complete the obstacle. The fourth attempt, the gas pedal to the floor. That was a spectacular slide at the finish. Let's watch it once more. Only after shooting this video, we found out that the Discovery's tires were overinflated. Make sure to check the tire pressure, especially when driving on slippery surfaces. The Lexus LX 470 drives the first attempt with low range activated at once. The start point is at the same spot as the Discovery's. It was audible how the engine's RPMs reached the limiter, but unfortunately the car lacked momentum to conquer the hill. Now, in addition to the low range, the center differential is locked. The result is a little better, but the climb still hasn't surrendered to the power of the Japanese V8. The third attempt, we have slightly moved the starting point so the Lexus could have more distance for acceleration. If there was less momentum, the LX 470 would have to make another attempt. Now it is the G-Wagon's turn. It drives in the standard mode and with almost no preliminary acceleration. Wow, what a dangerous U-turn on such a car with a high center of mass. The second attempt. This time, notably more throttling from the very start, but the result is the same. Let's activate all locking differentials and give a full throttle. The G63 slips with all four wheels and slides aside. Finally, the Mercedes playfully drove to the top of the hill. Now, it is the Tundra's turn. Actually, it conquered the hill the very first try, but I intentionally left it for dessert. At the first attempt, the truck is driving smoothly in the standard mode of the four-wheel drive system. It hasn't even reached the half of the climb and rolled back to the starting point. During the second attempt, all lockers were activated and the gas pedal was floored. You too thought that this time the Tundra will finally conquer the climb. But no, there's still a little left to make it to the very top, the third try. The starting point is moved back for the length of a car's body. The gearbox is in the drive position and full throttle. Well, that was very impressive and powerful. Let's watch the Tundra's drive one more time. The spectator will reasonably ask if why there's no uphill drive performed by the Prado. Of course, we haven't forgotten about it. The car drives at the starting point and then, with active wheel spin and with engine revs at the limiter, the Prado conquers the climb with a little pause at the very finish. I remind you that the Toyota started from the initial starting point, while all other participants were able to drive uphill after rolling back for the length of a body to the so-called starting point. Thus, they had an opportunity to gain more acceleration, and they successfully used it. What is the secret of such a successful ascent of the Land Cruiser Prado? The Toyota was the only car equipped with studded tires. So, keeping in mind that there was ice under the snow layer, the Prado had an advantage despite the weakest engine and four-wheel drive without electronic assistance. This time, we will not award places to the participants because test conditions were maximally unfair. But, taking the opportunity, I will make an announcement of the future videos. This Prado, which has easily conquered the long climb, last summer managed to participate in another test together with numerous different cars like Jeep Wrangler, Lexus GX 460, Land Rover Defender, and old Toyota Land Cruiser, 16 vehicles in total. The video will surely be available on the channel a bit later. But that's not all. This Toyota Tundra has checked in the big comparison of different Toyota SUVs, such as 4Runner, 2 Gen Sequoia, Land Cruiser, and the flying Lexus LX 570.